Hey everyone, Ryan here. So if you've been watching this channel for quite a while, you know that I'm a big moviegoer as I am, and I love to get out there and watch the movies and see what there is. And for those of you who are watching, I've always give you reviews and everything, but this time around, I want to do something I've been wanting to pick up for quite a while, especially this year, because this year Pixar has been 25 years in the making, believe it or not, with 22 films. And it first started off with the movie Toy Story. Toy Story was the one that started in 1995 to help bring Pixar films to the big screen. And following up, A Bug's Life came later on 3 years later. Then we had the sequel to follow up to the Toy Story movie, Toy Story 2. The Monsters Incorporated and Finding Nemo, all those original hits. The thing I love about Pixar most of the time is they stick to original format. They don't often do sequels, believe it or not. There's been a couple sequels they have done in the past. Of this, you got the Finding Dory that came out a while back ago, and we had the Incredibles 2 that came out. And we, of course, speaking of Toy Story, there were actually four of those, believe it or not. There's a slight rumor there might be a fifth one. It's hard to tell at this point. And the other last one in this sequel category would be Cars. I really thought this was a bit of a challenge making this list because I really enjoyed all these films. But let me start up at number 10. Number 10, The Incredibles 2. And after just thinking about those sequels, I thought this was, with the Pixar with sequels, I thought this was my favorite one, believe it or not. I did like the Toy Story series, but there's something about The Incredibles I really enjoyed. And I thought the second one was lived up to its expectation when it came out a couple of years ago as it is. So moving next to my number 9 movie, Ratatouille. I thought this was original, and I thought this was really good how they set this movie up, especially with the rat making recipes for a cook. A cook that could not really cook himself, but this little rat came to his aid and helped him prepare food for others. Really creative, gotta say. So let's go on to my number 8 movie, Toy Story 3. And after this, talking about The Incredibles 2 at number 10, I felt Toy Story 3 was the better sequel in its series. I felt they had a perfect end to 3, and I didn't think the fourth one was really necessary. But I still thought the fourth one was still pretty fun with the new characters and the new developing story. I have to go back to Toy Story 3 saying they closed it off really good with Andy moving on to college and giving his choice to a new owner, which is Molly. It was a good climax, emotional end. I gotta say that it was a perfect end to the Toy Story series. So moving on to number 7. Okay, so moving on to number 7, I got Monsters Incorporated on my list. And I forgot to mention it when I was talking about sequels. They did do a sequel to this movie. Once again, I thought it was a fun movie, yes, but once again, I don't think they actually needed this movie. But it was still a fun movie, I gotta say that. But I go back to Monsters Incorporated being on this list because I really liked it a lot. Once again, I like original contact, and I thought this was a really fun movie. What would happen if we had monsters under our bed, or maybe the closet or something like that? And what happened if they had another world of their own? And this little girl, Boo, is just so cute, adorable to carry on this story. And it's just a fun movie, I gotta say. I think of all the movies I've seen that's on this list, I think this was probably one of my funner movies I've seen. I'm surprised this movie actually isn't my number 1 movie, but we are getting there. And I just felt this movie was just really impressive to see, especially with all the CGI, how far they have gone with animation. It's incredible. And we're getting there. That's a little hint for the future of my list. Okay, so moving on to number 6, Brave. Now, if you guys can recall, when this teaser trailer actually came out to the theaters, we only had the video of a bear attacking this young girl, and it's like saying, what's going on here? And I was kind of scratching my head like this, saying, what's the story? But that's what teaser trailers are meant to be, trying to give us a small detail of the movie. But once the movie actually came out and I went to see it in theaters for the first time, I just thought, wow. I remember after seeing the movie, going, wow, this Pixar really hit me strong with this one because it's a fantasy film. And I'm actually surprised this ain't my number 1 movie, but there are other movies, believe it or not, I do like over this one. But the fantasy movies just really touched me even harder. Just like with that new movie that came out this year with Onward. I really enjoyed it, but it did not make this list, unfortunately. Once again, Pixar does it again with Onward, and I felt they brought some of that texture from the movie Brave, that fantasy, into the movie Onward. Yeah, I'm actually once again I'm not surprised that Brave is not number one, but there are other movies on this list that are quite impressive just as well. So moving on to my next movie at number five. Number five, the movie Cars. So if you guys can recall that, I did mention about the sequels. I really liked the original Cars a lot, and following that too, I'm just really glad Disney accounted for Adventure after the movie came out, and a couple of years later, they brought the attraction to the park as well, so we can actually watch the movie and experience the experience at the parks. And it's this hand detail; it's perfect. And I gotta say, over in California Adventure, that Cars ride is probably actually it is the best ride there. And when Tower of Terror was there, was my favorite this as well. But now they move it to Guardians of the Galaxy. Going back to the movie Cars, I just thought this movie was beautiful. I gotta say, with the detail with these cars, since there's no humans in this movie, it's just pretty much locomotive cars doing all the detail with the talking, the action, the nice car race towards the end of the movie, which was outstanding. I guess I have to really give credit to Pixar with those sound effects and everything with that when the cars were racing and everything. It just blew me away, I gotta say. So moving on to my next movie at number four, Toy Story. The movie that started it all back in 1995. And the thing I really like too is you can really see how far animation has gone because since there's been three other movies after Toy Story, and with our recent one, Toy Story 4, how far the animation has actually come. It's been amazing, I gotta say. And starting it off back in Toy Story was a really good story, simple story. What would happen if we left our toys behind? They would come to life. And their owner, Andy, took a really good responsibility playing with them and playing with them really hard. But the story in depth more was about Woody, which is a cowboy. Andy gets a new toy for his birthday, which is Buzz Lightyear. And there's a split of jealousy right there. And throughout the whole story, that's what we get. And then we have a whole big old adventure happening with the little toys. And by the way, too, because when we first got this movie, too, there was one of those Pixar short films. Guys, see that in back of me? It's not the actual lamp, but I'm pointing it out because they did a short on a lamp that with moving and everything, and having emotion and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, they did it. If it's a simple lamp and everything, it's cute, clever. It was only 5 minutes long, but we got I don't have, believe it or not, I don't have the bouncy ball. If you guys can recall bouncing, no. And by the way, has that been moving since I've been talking? It's not a toy; it's a lamp, but there could be a slight movement with it. I don't know. I don't know if it's live or not. So moving on to my number three movie, Coco. Now this was really enjoyable. I don't want to mention this because I know this is a Pixar Disney related film, but I'm going to mention something over on the DreamWorks side, just saying they did a movie called A Book of Life, which is pretty similar to this movie, but different characters, a little bit of a different story, but it's a story about Day of the Dead, and loved ones come back to them through spiritual feelings and spiritual love. And Coco, I gotta say, was well deserved with me, and I thought this was a perfect movie for the whole family. It just really tugs at you towards the end, though. It gets really emotional. And learning more depth in its story after watching this movie on the Blu-ray DVD copy, there is a documentary on there about the real life Coco, believe it or not. She's in Mexico. I don't know if she's still alive. I think she is, actually. But there's a story behind her. So it's actually based on a real lady named Coco. So if you have not checked that out, check it out on your Blu-ray DVD copy. It's really interesting. But with that being said, I want to move on to my number two film. So at number two, The Incredibles. Yes. I was waiting for this the first time when I saw that trailer. Mr. Incredible putting on the belt, trying to impress himself how big he was, and couldn't slip it on. You hear the sound effects, and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. And I couldn't wait for this movie to come out. I think everybody I have talked to about this film, I really thought this was really clever and liked the idea. And I'm not there yet, but I was gonna say after doing all these films, what are your favorites? But I'm not quite there as it is. But The Incredibles, I'm actually once again surprised this ain't my number one movie. It's incredible. The whole story. We got the villain. We got in the villain. It goes back a little farther than you think, because he started off as a little kid, and they developed a little story behind it. I don't, to tell the truth, the villain is a strong word too. Actually, it's a superhero movie. I have the right to actually probably say that, say a villain. We are down to my number one movie. Is there any guess that you might think I might actually say what I have not mentioned on this list quite yet? Out of the 22 films they have done within the last 25 years, which one do you think it is? I'm going to give you a second before I actually mention it. But I'm just really impressed with Pixar covering 22 films within 25 years. Because when we first started off, once again, I'm going to say Toy Story was 95. Then a couple of years later, I think it was 3 years after that, we had A Bug's Life. Then Toy Story 2 was shortly after that, back in '99. But this feels like Pixar films have been doing films back to back for every year. And I gotta say, that's pretty impressive, I gotta say. So I have given you time to think about this. And my number one movie is Finding Nemo. Now, if you guys know me well enough, I like the ocean life. I'm actually a scuba diver myself. And if you have not scuba dived before, or it takes snorkeling too, because you can actually snorkel and see the amount of stuff you want to see. But through animation, holy cow. Pixar did destruct me really hard when they did this movie because the story was really good. They nailed the water. It's been 17 years since Finding Nemo has come out, and the animation has come ridiculously far. And if you come up to this recent time, it's even farther than even before. And I just feel this is incredible. We have the story in Finding Nemo with the father and son connection, and that story is just so strong. You can relate if you could to the human life as it is, because it's an emotional stake through fathers through sons sometimes, and I just felt that this one really struck me hard. And with all that being, I'm getting emotional as it is just mentioning the movie Finding Nemo, but this is the movie that's the top movie on my list. Every movie that's on this list has been impressive, even but beyond 10. If I did make a list throughout the whole 22 films, I would have given it to. But maybe I might do that for the future. If you want to see my 11 through 22, I would have loved to do that. But leave comments down below if you want to see that. Also, I do want to leave some, hoping that you leave comments as well for your top 10 favorite films of Pixar films. So with all that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm already getting emotional from the last movie I've just talked about with Finding Nemo. But my name is Ryan Kretsch. Thank you for watching. Make sure to give me those massive thumbs up and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye.